The fixtures have been announced, and believe it or not, a team that we all love to target has got the worst attacking fixtures out of all the 20 teams, and a team that we would typically avoid last season, especially from an attacking perspective, have actually got the best attacking fixtures. In this video, we're going to rank each team in order from an attacking perspective. The fixture difficulty ratings on screen will be sorted from best to worst, and you'll see that later on in the video. But now we're going to kick things off with Chelsea, who do have the easiest attacking fixtures. It's not ideal that they start the season against Liverpool, but at least they've got the home advantage. They do get to play at home 3 times in the first 4 fixtures, and 4 times in the first 6 fixtures. The reason they rank so high is obvious. They face Luton at home, Forest at home, and Bournemouth away, their favourable attacking fixtures. The fixtures in game weeks 2 and 6 are just average. Then what you can't see on the screen is that they face Fulham in game week 7, that's just average again from an attacking perspective. Then in game week 8 they've got another easy fixture against Burnley. What's more impressive about these fixtures being ranked above the other 19 teams is that there's more weighting applied to the earlier fixtures and less weighting applied to the later fixtures. So let's say there's 100% weighting on the Liverpool one, then when it moves to West Ham it's 85%, then it's 85% of 85%, and so on. That's just the calculations. I'm not going into why I've done that, but the time weighting is important. So one thing you could do with Chelsea being so poor last season, you could avoid Chelsea players for the first 2 game weeks and just observe how they're getting on. You could even analyse which assets are doing well, then you could jump on them in game week 3. I don't like booking in free transfers, but that is something to consider. With them having the best attacking fixtures, I will definitely get at least one of their players. The problem with Chelsea is that they've not got any reliable midfielders or forwards, so it would actually be a defender, which is weird to say because these are attacking fixtures, but it would be an attacking defender, and that'd be Reece James. Hopefully he stays fit. Obviously with him being a defender, we need to consider the fixtures from a defensive perspective. If this video is popular, I will do a best defensive fixtures video. Make sure you hit the like button and let me know if you like it. Now let's address the elephant in the room. Chelsea were poor last season. We all know that. They finished 12th in the league. They completely underachieved. But they have got a new manager, and he is an upgrade on the manager that they used to have. So I do think they will improve. I'm not saying that they'll be this world beater overnight like they used to be, but I don't think they'll drop below par for the average attack or defence this season. And without a doubt, I would target any average Premier League team with these fixtures. So with Chelsea, I will consider a double up or a triple up, especially if there's attacking players that are playing well in pre-season. The thing is, there's a lot of other teams to consider, and Brighton are just a fraction behind on the attacking fixtures. They have a favourable opening fixture against Luton at home. In fact, when you look at the attack fixture difficulty ratings, out of all the 40 possibilities home and away, Luton at home is by far the easiest. Not only did they have the easiest fixture in game week 1, if you combine game week 1 and game week 2, they've also got the easiest opening fixtures because they faced Wolves away in the second game, and they're the only team on the whole of the attack fixture difficulty ratings to have 2 green opening fixtures. It's not ideal that they've got difficult back-to-back fixtures in game weeks 4 and 5, but if you last until game week 6, they have got Bournemouth at home, which is favourable, but you could also sell them in game week 4 if you really want to, and that's why I've put more weighting on the earlier fixtures, and you can see why they're ranked so high as well with that weighting on the earlier fixtures, especially with the opening 2. Then they also avoid a red in the first 3. Unlike Chelsea, there are a few decent options that we can target. Obviously Matoma on the screen, but you've also got March as well. We could also consider Gross if he plays in an advanced role. He's also on penalty duties with McAllister gone. We could look at Enciso depending on his minutes. Pedro might play in an attacking mid-role, then he'd become a better option. You've also got the forwards, but the problem is you've got to be careful of rotation. If I was to pick a forward, they'd have to be nailed, and it would probably be Ferguson. The Premier League champions Manchester City are in the top 3 for attacking fixtures. That's whilst they've got the best attack in the league and the best forward in the league. The obvious option from City and out of all the teams is of course Haaland. The fixture against Burnley is the first fixture of game week 1, so we will probably get leaked team news. Unless Haaland's not starting, nearly everyone's going to captain him, and captaincy is going to be redundant again. But in game weeks like this, we've got to make the most of it and act like captaincy's not in the game. We need to find those fine margins where we can gain an advantage, and one of them will be the leaked lineups. I'd say at least 90% of the FPL community, if you look at how many people play it, won't be switched onto it or won't be able to react in time. We might be able to see which City mids are starting, and we can capitalise on that. That's the blue side of Manchester. Going over to the red side of Manchester in 4th place, it's Manchester United. Whilst there's already been a few teams, United still have favourable opening fixtures. In fact, they've got the joint best opening 3 attacking fixtures, joint with Brighton, and then there's no other team that have got 2 greens and a white. Whilst United have to travel to the Emirates in game week 4, they don't have back-to-back red fixtures like Brighton, so I wouldn't advise selling them onwards. They've got Brighton themselves in game week 5 and that's at home, then you've got a nice easy fixture against Burnley away in game week 6. We have got the two main options, Rashford and Bruno. Hopefully they price them correctly this season, otherwise we might not be considering Bruno as much. We could also consider Martial if he manages to stay fit throughout all of the matches in pre-season. Then you've got the options of the midfielders like Garnacho, Sancho and Anthony, depending on who's playing. I am recording this on the 16th of June, but when you're watching this video, availability of players might change, players might be unfit, they could have been sold, and some of these teams might sign attacking players after this video is published. It's time for the hammers, it's hammer time. West Ham have the 4 best opening fixtures, they've got 2 greens and a white, which no other team has got. Whilst they are in 5th place, the fixtures do turn ugly really quick. They face City at home in game week 5 and then Liverpool away in game week 6. A drawback compared to the teams that we've already discussed is that they've got 3 away fixtures in the first 4 and 4 away fixtures in the first 6. I don't think it's even worth considering game week 5 onwards. If I was to bring in one of their players, I would sell them ahead of that game week. Despite them having to travel away from home 3 times in the first 4 fixtures, there are 18 teams that have at least 1 red fixture in the first block of 4. The main thing is that they've got easy opponents. Bournemouth and Luton are easy fixtures from an attacking perspective. Then Chelsea's defence was quite poor throughout the whole of last season. To be honest, well, you could probably say it was average. It was just poor by their standards. Then Brighton's defence wasn't the best towards the end of last season either. If I do jump on a West Ham player in that first block of 4 fixtures, it will probably be Bowen. I'll also consider Paqueta as well. Number 6 is another London club, it's Arsenal. Attacking fixtures don't come much easier than Forest at home on the opening day. They do have to travel away to Palace, who had a decent defence at the end of last season, but after that it's not too bad. They've got a few average fixtures, plus they have a decent fixture against Everton. They also benefit from having 3 home fixtures in the first 4 and 4 home fixtures in the first 5. It does feel weird to see United and Spurs as average fixtures, but when you're playing against them at home from an attacking perspective, they're not really difficult fixtures. United just about make the cut when you're playing against them at Old Trafford as a red fixture. As for Spurs, when you face them away from home, they are still an average fixture. If you look at the defence towards the end of last season, it was definitely nothing special at all. United's defence is slightly better out of the 2. Although there are 5 teams with better fixtures, I'll definitely be jumping on Arsenal attackers this season. They will be costing more, so I don't know if a triple up will be as feasible, but I will be getting 1 or 2 of them. I do like Saka the most because he's got penalty duties. Then you've got the obvious options like Martinelli, Odegaard and Jesus. Martinelli and Odegaard will be nowhere near the price they were last season. To be honest, I think I would prefer Jesus because there were more adequate options in midfield as alternatives compared to the forward slot. I think one to watch this season for Arsenal is Trossard. That's if he gets the minutes. If he does get the minutes, his underlying stats are decent, hopefully slightly cheaper than the other midfielders. He's an option to strongly consider if he somehow becomes nailed. Arsenal's rivals are in 7th place, Spurs. Overall, these fixtures are decent from an attacking perspective. For 3 game weeks in a row, they get to play against Bournemouth, Burnley and Sheffield United. There are a few drawbacks as well, like opening up with a difficult fixture. They've also got 3 away fixtures in the first 4 and 4 away fixtures in the first 6. That North London derby at the Emirates in game week 6 will be more difficult for them than it will be for Arsenal. If Kane does stay at Spurs, he's pretty much fixture proof, so he's worth considering. Obviously he's got Bournemouth away, Burnley away and Sheffield United at home in those few game weeks, but it's mostly game week 4 and 5 where we would consider him the most. That's where Holland's got average fixtures, so we might possibly captain him in 1 or 2 of those game weeks. Son's output improved in the latter stages of last season. I don't think I'll consider him for game week 1 though. It's actually Luton in 8th place. They've got the best fixtures out of all the promoted sides. They do only have 1 difficult fixture in the first block of 6, but I don't think I will be considering any of their players at the start of the season. It's more of a wait and see. I don't think it's worth the risk. The only way I'd consider buying any of their players is if they're dirt cheap and I need to free up some budget. If I was to buy a player from them, it definitely would be Morris. You've also got Adebayo, who's got promising underlying stats, but he underperformed them last season, so I would avoid him unless he started being clinical. Brentford take 9th place. They open up with 3 average fixtures, but then they've got 2 green and 1 red, and that's why they're just above the midpoint. If you remember, earlier I mentioned that there are 2 teams that don't have any red fixtures in the first block of 4. One's West Ham and the other one's Brentford. West Ham benefit from having 2 green fixtures in the first 4. As you can see, Brentford don't, but it's still decent. It does help that they've got 3 home fixtures in the first 4 and 4 home fixtures in the first 6. I think it will be interesting to see what Price and Mbeumo is next season. Obviously Tony's sidelined for a while, so when Mbeumo takes that focal point up front, and he's on penalty duties as well. If Weezer's priced cheaper than him, I will probably consider him more. He's been getting a lot of minutes since Tony was suspended, he's got decent underlying stats, and he's overperformed them as well. In the middle, Burnley take 10th place. What a way to be welcomed to the Premier League facing City. They've got the best defence, so from an attacking perspective, that's a really difficult fixture for Burnley, and for that reason I don't think it's worth considering them. If you remember, I said there's more weighting put on the earlier fixtures, but obviously from game week 2 onwards it's not too bad, but at this point I don't think there's any good options from Burnley anyway. Now we're in the bottom half, it's Palace in 11th place. They're the first team to come up with 3 red fixtures in the first 6. In fact, it's 3 red fixtures in the first 5. Yeah, they've got 2 green fixtures, but I will be avoiding Palace players. Next up are a team in 12th place, and I would actually consider their attacking players. It's Liverpool. So far, it's only been them and Palace who's got 2 red fixtures in the first 3. That first block of 3 fixtures are really difficult for Liverpool, even though they have got the green one sandwiched in the middle. That Wolves away fixture is decent, sandwiched in the middle of 2 average fixtures, but overall these are bad fixtures. Salah will still be high on my watch list, especially for game week 2. That's when Haaland has to face Newcastle who have a decent defence. He gets to face one of the worst defences in the league, which is Bournemouth at Anfield. The reason I mention Haaland is because I don't like to perma-captain players. I like to rotate the captaincy and be flexible. At the minute, if I could choose, I would captain Salah against Bournemouth at home, but I like to be open-minded and things might change between now and then. As for the other Liverpool players, I think they could still provide good value for money depending on how much they cost. You've got Nunes, Jota, Gakpo and Diaz. They could still be fixture-proof because they do play for a good attacking side. As for McAllister, I did like him at Brighton as an option, but he'll probably be about 6.5, 7 mil, and I think he'll be playing too deep, and he won't have the penalty duty, so I won't be considering him. The only way I will consider him is if he moves to an attacking midfielder role. And of course, how could we forget Trent? He is registered as a defender in FPL, but he was technically an out-of-position midfielder in the latter half of last season. If I do publish a defenders video, he will be discussed more. In unlucky 13th place is the 3rd promoted side, Sheffield United. To be fair, they've got the easiest opening fixture of the 3 promoted sides, but as a block of 6, they've got the most difficult. They've got to play against City, and they've got to face Newcastle as well. If I wasn't considering starting with any attacking players from the other 2 promoted sides, I definitely won't be considering Sheffield United. In 14th place are Everton. This is the team that I support, so I can offer an informed opinion. Right now, without the fixtures, the only attacking player I would consider is Calvert-Lewin if he was fit to play, and he's got the penalty duties as well. McNeil is one to watch. If you look at his underlying stats since Dyche took over, he's been expected to get a return every other game. He's also on set pieces, and he should be quite cheap. But for now, these are difficult fixtures, so I wouldn't even be considering those 2 players. These fixtures are starting to get really shocking now. Fulham are in 15th place. They've also got 3 red fixtures, but the first team so far to have a dark red in those 3. It is a drawback that they've got 3 away fixtures in the first 4 and 4 away fixtures in the first 5. As much as I like Mitrovic as an option, I won't be considering him off the bat with these difficult fixtures. I will consider him when the fixtures turn better though. Andreas Pereira is still one to watch throughout the season. He won't be as cheap as last season, so his points per million probably will be lower, but I think he could still be a good option, and he's still got the set pieces. Forest have the 16th best fixtures, or should I say the 5th worst. These are absolutely shocking. So far in the video, we haven't actually had 4 reds. This is 4 reds with a dark red in it as well. At a glance, it just seems surprising why they're not any lower with the 4 red fixtures. It's because there's 2 dark green fixtures at home are keeping them afloat. There's actually teams below them with 2 red fixtures. It's just overall, they do compensate a little bit. Obviously, I won't be targeting any Forest players though. Villa are in 17th place. They've got to kick the season off against Newcastle away, which is really difficult from an attacking perspective. They still have 2 green fixtures, but they're not dark greens like Forest have, and that brings down the ratings. They're another team with 3 away fixtures in the first 4 and 4 away fixtures in the first 6. I really don't like the Villa fixtures. I think Watkins will be a good option at some point, just not now. Wolves are in 18th place, and I'm quite glad that they've got difficult fixtures. They've took one for the team because they've probably got the worst attack in the league. It's that bad that if they had 6 green fixtures, I'd still consider not buying one of their attackers. Penultimately, in 19th place are Bournemouth, and they're the only team on the whole list to have no green fixtures. So they've got 2 red fixtures, with absolutely nothing to compensate for that, because the other ones are just average. The thing is, it is only Bournemouth, so the only way we consider them is if they're quite cheap and they've got decent fixtures. Taking up last place are Newcastle. Now you might wonder why they're not slightly ahead of Bournemouth, because they have got a green fixture against Sheffield United away, but to be fair, Bournemouth don't have any dark red fixtures and Newcastle do. Don't forget that it's weighted on earlier fixtures as well. Look at that first block of 3. They've got to play City at the Etihad in the second match, and then in the third match they've got to face Liverpool as well. Isak and Wilson are on my target list this season, but I don't think I'll be going for them. Obviously we've got to consider the defensive fixtures in another video as well, but with Trippier we've got to consider both sides of it, and if I do a defensive video we will definitely be discussed in that one. As for now, looking at the fixtures, Reece James has got 3 green attacking fixtures and 1 red. That's whilst Trippier's got 2 red attacking fixtures and 1 green. So right now I would put James ahead of Trippier in the pack. That's if he is fit to play. In summary, I think he'll be avoiding Newcastle players at the start of the season. If you've made it to this point in the video, you clearly found the video informative. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any of these videos.